Welcome, welcome, welcome to PAX 2025. In an unexpected turn of events, the doctors will be running on time today.
Yes.
I feel attacked. So, let's get this show on the road. As always, this panel will feature medical professionals discussing both medical procedures, mental health issues, and feature medical imagery. Patient material has been de-identified and presented with consent. Some of this is medical pictures, so discretion is advised. When anything particularly graphic is coming up, we will let you know. Viewer advisory. We are going to be talking about games in this presentation, which may contain spoilers for gameplay. Again, your discretion is advised. This is our fun part, well, the boring part anyway. Clips and images are shown for illustrative and discussion purposes only. Any and all rights to content are retained by the content creators and owners. And without further ado, Dr. Evil, if you would be kind enough to quickly introduce yourself.
Present. Dr. Evil by name, evil by nature. I stab people with intent, but usually to help, not hinder. If it's a slow day, I can create work. And that's me in my usual work environment, being targeted by ill-tempered, no, it's not an ill-tempered sea bass, it's a shark. I've been doing this for a whole bunch of years, I've also got a military background.
It's nice that they've made scrubs and gowns that are now straitjackets.
It's the chunky.
Yeah. Well, rolling on into Dr. Bones.
So my name's Bones. Imaginatively, I deal with bones, orthopedics, and particularly spine. They're my favourites.
What's your favourite spine bone?
Oh, my favourite spine bone is clearly the C7. So the C7, if you look at an axial image, it is happy. It's happy to support you, to support your neck all day long, and the C7 nerve is the one that allows you to do the thumbs up. So, there you go, little medical factoid, C7s. Hey!
Dr. Doom.
So, I'm Dr. Doom, addiction medicine general physician. I may or may not have an increasingly large pile of grey shame.
We all do.
You can't see it because the room's too full.
It's a shelf of opportunity.
It is, it is. It's very much a shelf of lots and lots of opportunity. I don't book people with things, usually.
No.
So, yeah, that's me.
Dr. Death.
Hello. So I work in anatomical pathology. Yes, I am a real doctor. No, no one knows I exist or what I do. I don't see patients, so I'm never late. But I do write reports that go out mostly on time.
You
Yes.
see parts of patients.
Yes.
Bits.
Bits.
The decimals round up.
She's really good at puzzles.
I'm doing them. Yes. Anyway. Yes. So I work in the lab and play games.
And on the end, Dr. Brain.
Hello, I am Dr. Brain. I am a psychiatry registrar. I'm also a real doctor, but I do see patients. And I love games. I love Pokemon, Kingdom Hearts, Spyro, Mario. Pins. May have been in some
I've noticed that your brain and the addiction specialist cannot be further apart.
It's a choice. Very happy to be back.
Unsung hero of the panel, Master Chief of Design. He is in the room, you might spot him. He also wears a jacket. He comes in, he makes everything look pretty. He designs the pins that so many of you guys like to come and grab off us that we enjoy handing out. And sometimes he's even playing some actual games himself. Like, not recently because we're busy, but sometimes. So, let us get this party started with, I feel like Dr. Evil had something interesting to say about that.
So this was a really beautifully designed game called Stray, and then you see this cat sort of lead, no, and then back. But the rest of the game you spend sort of making your way back up again, and it's very fun. But it got me thinking about the sudden stop at the end from an unexpected fall. And that's what hurts you. It's not the acceleration or anything like that. We'll discuss that. But who is the tallest person in the room?
Not me.
Oh, okay, I've got a couple of hands. Just shout out how many feet or inches or centimetres.
6'3".
6'2".
6'9".
6'9". I'm not going to say stand up and be recognised because you'll be already. So our tallest individual, and congratulations on your genetics, is designed to fall from a maximum height. Their body is designed to fall from a maximum height of 6 foot 9 inches. All right. So if they fall from anything higher than that, their body is not designed to take in the impact. So please, 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 when you're working at heights, either have a spotter, have a rope, or don't go that high, especially if you're starting to get a little bit more crumbly in the area, which is the elderly falls population is a large portion of my patients. So, and 3 points of contact level times if you're a cat.
Is that from the head or the feet?
Yes,
The distance.
like, from 6 foot 9 from above, like, or from like.
So if you were standing on your head, which should be an impressive feat.
You'd probably fall over.
Yes, beautiful. Now this is something I've got a special background in, is aviation medicine, and I get triggered in any movies where there's an explosive decompression on any aircraft, whether it be in a games or a movie, because there's this concept of useful consciousness when it comes to the altitude that you're at, and it doesn't matter how long you can hold your breath for if you're at altitude, because this fascinating thing happens when you're above 45,000 feet, where it's the offloading of oxygen at the cellular level that starts not happening. And if it happens rapidly, you lose consciousness within sometimes seconds. And there's this, so this is a Gears of War, not Gears of War game, a Call of Duty game, where there's an explosive decompression and you continue fighting. Yeah, so do complex tasks. And there's a photo halfway through the slide, and you'll see this person who looks like he's, a little bit, medicated on something that's not prescribed. And he's got sort of glassy eyes, and he's got his mask off. Now that's a training video from the US Navy, where they get you doing something in a room, where they just slowly start dialing down the pressure, and they don't tell you. And then, so the video of this guy, he's throwing over cards, and he's just keeps throwing over cards, and someone is in his face saying, if you don't put oxygen on your face, you are going to die. And he takes up one of these cards, and he goes 4 of spades, and someone is saying you are going to die, because he's doing something called task fixation. So if this happens when you're doing complex tasks, you may get stuck in a loop and eventually need to be reset, which I find quite interesting. So know if there's an explosive decompression at altitude, you can't continue the fight. Put oxygen on first, and then keep going.
How does your altitude issues manifest again?
Like an orthopedic surgeon, mainly. Bunga bunga.
Belligerent. He gets belligerent.
This is also another aviation thing. So I love the graceful sort of, F-35 or F-16 in any of the games that is sort of turning around a building or providing ground support. And everyone on the ground is not really bothered by this thing that was just 50 feet above their head. That's what actually happens if an aircraft is 50 feet off the surface doing 600 or 700 miles. Okay, it kicks up everything. It's like being smacked in the face with a whole bunch of horses.
I'm going to need a deck save to...
And there's actually an instance, he was an Australian pilot who had a situation where he was too low to the ground and then overcorrected and nearly went straight into a cow paddock. And so he's managed to recover the aircraft and gone full sort of afterburner. And I've seen photos of the ground afterwards, and there's 2 scorch marks on the ground. So imagine being, ground support, and like, I need air support, and someone comes in and just barbecues you.
Imagine being that farmer. I have no idea why these cows aren't milking anymore.
Just all got PTSD. The milk's so warm. That's how you get scalded milk.
Milkshake.
But onto air support, and I was quite fond of zombie gunship. It was a fun game, you get the FLIR image, the heat image, and these guys are brains towards your headquarters, and you just start lobbing ordnance at them. And so, if we go to the image, who can tell me, just shout it out, what game this is? I think so. No. Good try. Yeah. No, that's a stock standard Call of Duty. And so they're cycling through video, and they're cycling through FLIR, and you can see the bad guys sort of pew, 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 pew. And then you're like, no, not on my watch, and you help your friends. And that, I think they're trying to depict a Hellfire missile going into that building, which is only got, I think it's only got about 100 to 250 grams of explosive in it. So it's not a very heavy thing. Next game. Who can tell me what this game is? Not a game.
I think that one's called Real Life Simulator.
And so that's about, that'll be between 1,000 to a 2,000 pound bomb that's gone into that, and then there's secondary explosions, and you see things jet off. Here's the really sobering thing about what just happened, what that person just did. There were people in that building. Yeah, that was sad. The warfare was fun.
Is that one called a goodbye Greek coordinates?
It's how you delete someone off the face of the earth.
Was that a multi-warhead?
No, single.
Really?
Yeah, single. And so we'll go to the next game. Yeah. Go to the next game. This is another. So this is a FLIR image, and that's I think that's supposed to be a 105 howitzer round. That's just knocking an entire building down. And you see the little white person there just sort of disappear. And then we'll go to the next game, not game. Someone driving along the road, and then they get deleted. Now, here's the more sobering thing. So, one would hope they're a bad person. You know, they've done bad things. Who believes in capital punishment or not, that's entirely up to you. What about the person who's following orders, pulling the trigger? How's that going to make them feel?
It's not good. We need to explore that.
Just tell them that the one in the video was the one that pushed the cat first off.
So whilst I do what I do, it's very sobering when you sort of take a step back and you find out the people affected by your actions. So I don't want to ruin games for you, but next time you pull the trigger, I wonder if they had a mum or a dad. Use your words, people.
Evil by name, evil by nature. Thank you very much, but I'm going to push forward to Dr. Brown.
Let's do it. So, in a little bit of a topic change,
We're stunned silent.
yes, yes, I think so. I want to talk about mutism this year, which is a term used to describe when someone doesn't or can't talk. And I think the first thing to say is that many people live with this. There's all kinds of causes, and it can be just really debilitating and frustrating not being able to communicate in the way that someone might want to. And just to briefly go through, there's lots of different things. There's selective mutism based on social anxiety sometimes, neurodevelopmental conditions, neurological causes, brain injuries like stroke or trauma, and even severe depression or schizophrenia can happen, amongst other things. So suffice to say that mutism and the causes that lead to the mutism can cause significant problems for people potentially. But I did notice this interesting thing in a lot of games that I like, where some of the best or most famous characters actually have no dialogue at all. It made me think about this, and I've developed a theory that speaking less or having less dialogue actually correlates with being more badass. And I will take you through a series of examples to demonstrate my point, and I hope you will agree with me. So first of all, we have Red, who's the original protagonist of the Pokemon game series, which was published in 1996. He's the first playable character and then also returns multiple times as a non-playable character or a final boss. He's widely considered to be one of the most powerful trainers, and in all instances, both when you play as him and later, he has absolutely no dialogue, just these text boxes with ellipses. So this is my personal favourite appearance. You battle the whole, this is like in the post-game, after the Elite Four, you battle through this mountain, you walk to the top of this snowy mountain, and there he is. And all you do is you interact with him, and there's just these ellipses, and then the final fight begins, and it's the most badass moment in the whole series for me. I'm a big Pokemon fan. So I rate Red a 9 out of 10 on the badass score scale. He did lose a point for being completely reliant on his Pokemon, but still overall pretty badass. The next silent hero, Link. Probably one of the most famous no dialogue characters.
We've seen him before.
A few times in this panel. We like him. So he's the long-standing protagonist of the Zelda series, which was originally released in 1986. And since the series moved into 3D, he did get grunting, shouting, and gasping, but he doesn't actually get any dialogue. You might get like his internal monologue occasionally. And despite this, he is still emotionally expressive though. He uses expressions, sounds, Corp torture to get his point across. And he's also widely loved and a complete badass. I rate him a 9.5 out of 10 for his own hand-to-hand combat, unlike Red. He kills Lionels and he is literally a legend, so 9.5. Next, we have, speaks for himself, Doom Guy. Of course. So this was published in Doom, was published in 1993. This whole series has shaped the development of first-person shooter-style games. It stars the Doom Slayer, affectionately known as Doom Guy. He is totally silent. And to demonstrate how badass this guy actually is, we just have to look at the opening sequence of Doom Eternal, against all the evil that hell can conjure. We will send unto their only. And it's amazing. It's completely badass. 10 out of 10. No notes.
I think most recently, and spoiler, I played Dark Ages. He expressed an emotion. He had a sad when his dragon died, and I think he got angry. How is it losing a pet?
We still don't talk about it.
Cats,
It's okay, we talk
dragons,
about
it's
this.
just too much. Okay, well, we're moving right through to honourable mentions. I won't go through them all, but the pattern persists, less is more. We have to look at this in reverse. Can you be as badass with excessive dialogue in-game? I've done thorough scientific research, and objectively, the answer is no. You cannot. Firstly, for example, if anyone's played the Ocarina of Time on 64 and 3DS, you'll be familiar with Navi, who is the helpful hint fairy. Frequent interruptions of, hey, listen, yes, someone said it before I said it, they know. With relentless in-game tips, frequently interrupts. It leads many fans to feel the way that Link feels towards Navi in this GIF. Occasionally helpful, but generally annoying, and even optimistically cannot be described as badass. I give Navi a 3 out of 10 for trying.
As high as 3 out of 10.
I like to be optimistic, you know.
What would you give the paperclip from Microsoft Word?
Does that even get us?
Alright, pushing through. Next, for Animal Crossing fans, we have Mr. Rossetti! So Mr. Rossetti, for those not familiar, is an angry mole character embedded in Animal Crossing. He progressively gets angrier and angrier every time you reset your game without saving. His berating escalates, and there's one point where he even pretends to erase all your progress, and the screen powers down, and the player's like, oh no, because he threatens you the whole time. So he's known for these long, angry, unskippable rants, and I would say it's ironically lovable, but not at all badass. I give him a 4 out of 10 for the boldness of the fake out reset. And then in the next slide, we have some unhonorable mentions. There's many more examples. For anyone who's played Elder Scrolls, this is the adoring fan who follows the player and cheers them on, and clearly is not very well loved by players.
Being sent into oblivion, that's where it gets the title.
So to wrap it up, any hypothesis must be put to the test, of course. So I have conducted a retrospective cohort study on the prescribed research using data from historical panel recordings and
We did not agree to this!
If we just went through this slide. So we've recorded the minutes spoken by each doctor on panels between 2019 and 2024. And since I only joined a few years ago, not to give myself an unfair advantage, I've averaged my own minutes and extrapolated that across the years I've not been a panel speaker. And as you can see on this table, the numbers do not lie. If we go to the next slide, in graph form. So as you can see, our Master Chief of Design has spoken the least on the panel, 0 minutes, followed by Dr. Enabler, myself, Dr. Death, Dr. Bones, Dr. Doom, and then Dr. Evil comes in at a whopping 53 minutes. And remember, of course, unfortunately, that the final badass score is inversely proportional to the next slide.
For new panelists next year.
Please don't find me. Meaning that Master Chief of Design has a perfect badass score of 10.
10 out of 10.
And unfortunately, Dr. Evil does pull up with the lowest badass score.
When you're
As high as 3.
I think to wrap it up, keep moving. Take or near. For those of us who don't have a lot to say, evidence suggests they have strong main character energy. There are many ways to communicate and be understood, and sometimes less is more. And please don't fire me. That's all today.
Anyway, for no reason at all, we're moving right along.
All right, so don't talk a lot. Got it. So I've done a few things about getting out of things and crashing and all of those things. So I figured out maybe some of the games you can just get out of the car, get off your horse, get off the cart, and you'll be okay.
Tuck and roll.
Yeah, just tuck and roll. Just tuck and roll. Yeah. jump your horse onto a carriage and fall off the horse and just get back up. The horse is going to be fine.
This was actually described as dismount, remount failure into the other carriage.
So there's a few games where
A horse cannot ride another horse.
Apparently not, but you can get off of the carriage with your horse, and the horse is fine. No problems there. There's nothing that's ever going to be a problem. GTA 5 does it. Cyberpunk 2077 does it as well. This is fine. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Cyberpunk, you do eat road just a little bit. You can see, oh, my hand's skidded. Oh, okay. Red Dead Redemption 2, you just roll on the ground, get back up. Doesn't matter how fast you're getting. It doesn't matter if you got run over by the car. You're okay. GTA 5 goes even further. You skid along the road. There's a blood trail as you get out of the car, crash into another person, and then just get up, dust yourself off, and just walk. The suit's completely fine, by the way. It must be made out of Kevlar or something. But yeah, you can get out of the car moving quite quickly.
Hey, are you saying that's not right?
There might be a couple of forces that interact with you. And unfortunately, yes, students, there will be a little bit of a physics lesson here. There are 3 forces that act on you as you get out of a car at moving speed. Gravity, that thing that pulls you down to Earth. Inertia, things keep you moving. Let's get going. And friction that disagrees with you continuing to move. And we have maths. We have maths. We have to do some maths. So, yeah, how do we calculate how much you hit the ground with? Well, gravity is simply that force that pulls us down, 9.8 meters per second squared, and you hit the ground at a force equal to your mass times your acceleration, so acceleration is 9.8. Your mass is whatever your mass happens to be, and the force is 10 times your mass times however long it takes you to fall. So don't fall for very long, please. Alright, so what do we do about inertia? Inertia is that thing that, Newton said, an object in motion tends to stay in motion, an object at rest tends to stay at rest. And you'll continue rolling down the road and down the road and down the road as long as the car is moving and you don't have anything that stops you. Fortunately, there's this nice and wonderful thing called friction that does decide to slow you down.
I actually want to point one thing on this slide out because you pointed it out to me, because when I started putting them together, I was like, what do you mean? One of these is real, and the other one is Photoshop. And
can you tell which one's real and which one's Photoshopped?
But, that disclaimer we spoke about before.
Anyone who is squeamish, please close your eyes now, because there are definitively graphic images next. This is what happens with friction. These are real images. There's a bone. There is a bone, and you can maybe try to fix it. So road rash is what happens when everything outside of your body wears away and you are continuing to move and friction is still operating on you. The ground is harder than you are and things wear away. And unfortunately, if you don't have the right gear on, as a lot of these people didn't, your protective layer starts to wear away. I will tell you that in the image where Dr. Bones can see his operating field,
great exposure.
Most of that person was covered by protective clothing, but was going a little bit faster than they intended, and the motorcycle jacket that they were wearing did not last.
That takes actual effort.
Yes, it does. For those that are interested, motorcycle gear is actually rated in seconds, and that is the seconds that you can drag along the ground before it wears away.
I'll go into that in more detail.
Is that rated on a particular speed? Like assuming
I think
the
it's,
speed?
I think it assumes a speed. I don't know.
It's the motor cap rating, right? I got you.
Okay,
Let's look at a bit more of this for us. All right, so in the interest of increasing my badass score, I'm done.
There's opportunities for
The next panel is just pure science.
No, I'm keeping track and being thank you, Dr. Doom. Dr. Death, what did you want to talk about?
So, are there any twitches present? So if there's any twitches present, can you tell me what these are?
Birds.
I didn't quite hear you. It's a pair of... What? 1, 2, 3, please everyone. Yes.
We are so cancelled.
This is science.
If you're going to get demoted for talking, let's talk about boobies. Allah. Okay. Yes, I went highbrow with my talk.
Are we selling these pasties on the online store?
Yep.
I do not agree to having my name censored.
Technically they're pins, but...
This has to be the sticker feature. Wow, okay, so today we're not here to talk about birds, we're here to talk about breasts and video games. And beginning with, are they realistic? All these head shapes, no. Hold your horses, if you can get them on the cart. On the left, you can see a close-up of Alloy from Horizon Forbidden West. A couple of years ago, there was what turned into Nipplegate, when people noticed that her nipples had been rendered in very intricate detail through her clothes, which we can't observe here because of my nips have been censored, sorry. On the right is Ciri from the Witcher games, and I would argue they're both fairly realistic breasts, but let's look at the medical science. Yep, cool. Yep, next slide. No, that's right. So I, after extensive Googling, trying to find a picture of breasts, I
How was your search history these days?
Did you do some work?
I've been doing research on this for weeks. As my colleagues have been helping me all around. Our algorithms are gone. My work computer is on a watch list. On the left-hand side, we can see an anatomy textbook picture of a breast. There's the skin over the top. Most of the breast underneath is actually fat, which is normal for breasts. And then on the right-hand side, that's a microscopic image of what I look at almost every day of the mammary tissue in the breast, which is ducts arranged in little clusters or lobules. And it's those little round ducts that are capable of producing and secreting milk, which is kind of cool. And then because we can't see it under its little prescribed respawn tassel on the right, breasts also obviously have a little party hat.
I don't think it's ever been called that.
With a little nipple booping on the top and then the areola around yes, anyway, that's the coloured skin. So second question today. Some women's, not all, okay, and first of all, hang on, no, back one, sorry. We can't see a nipple here. Everyone's born with at least 2. If you're not sure, just at some point, when at your discretion. But second question of the day, some women's breasts have little extra bumpy bits on the areola. Does anyone know what they're called? Yeah,
I know the joke.
It's a tricky one. Okay, so tubercles of Montgomery, which was named by an Irish obstetrician in the 1800s, which just goes to show that men have been naming women's breasts since the 1800s.
Also known as Monty's mini nips.
I'm trying to keep it to medical facts now.
I'm so sorry.
Okay. Next slide. So realistic breasts, I would argue, are portrayed in video games, but then if you look to Ivy Valentine, various members of the Dead or Alive cadre, and so on, you get the feeling that perhaps sometimes the proportions aren't entirely natural, maybe there's been some cosmetic augmentation at some point. But is that even a bad thing? What does science say? All about the science, it's just this. Okay, so I looked up, just to really mess with the algorithm, I looked up a bunch of research papers about women with breast cosmetic augmentation, however we want to, whatever the PC term is now. And obviously, first of all, it gives a lot of confidence back to some women who've had to have surgery for cancer or prophylactic surgery if they're at higher risk of developing cancer, so like Angelina Jolie, instead of living with the constant fear and risk of certain subsets of people have genetics that just predispose them to having breast cancer. So rather than subjecting yourself to the intensely rigorous screening and things, you can have your augmentation and your mammary tissue, all those little ducts removed. Reduces your risk, still looks fabulous. No one's against that. But then on top of that, sorry, got to go back to the science. I've given myself notes because I knew that this would happen. So the studies. They all agree that even though having implants or augmentation of whatever type impairs your screening imaging, so when they try and do the screening that they usually would to look for breast cancer, it's harder to see because the implants are there. The implants, there's an equivocal risk of, like, you're still going to find the cancer. There's no increased risk to the patient because the implant sits behind the breast tissue and pushes it forwards, making it much easier to examine, and you find cancer sooner. On top of which, people who tend to have augmentation tend to have smaller breasts to begin with, meaning they have smaller amounts of the specialised tissue, which is just a smaller field, or there's less to turn on you. So I'm not saying, this is general medical advice only and scientific studies, I'm not saying everyone should go out tomorrow and get implants. Men get breast cancer too, so like gender neutral. I'm not saying everyone should go out tomorrow and get implants, but maybe these characters are just looking out for their own health. It's not bad. So, to move on from that, I'll briefly touch on the male gaze and briefly touch on the male gaze and boobies. I think it's real because if you look at things like the outrage and sadness over certain characters, evolution over time, evolution into smaller chesticles, it can't be denied, as in the case here of Tiefel Lockhart. So it is what it is, and to quote John from The Fast and the Furious, let's just be people who can appreciate a good body regardless of the make. To round this all out, I swear I shouldn't find these puns. I'm sorry. There's stuff that just doesn't make sense. And so here we have Torna from Crash Bandicoot. And I take no issue with anthropomorphic characters, but, and I'm sorry I didn't provide a comparison picture. I meant to show you why are Torna's breasts so big and Coco's are so small. Like, oh, coincidence. Sister's boobies, Torna's boobies, Not to mention, if you look at the pictures of the bandicoots on the right-hand side, I looked through so many pictures of bandicoots.
Oh no.
It's even worse than we thought.
Google search, front view bandicoot. Side view female bandicoot. Female bandicoot nipples.
What about bandicoot breast augmentation?
That's when we get torn up. So I'll look to you to judge. I can't find a single example of a bandicoot with a waist like this and boobies like this. So far, Torna represents the final frontiers. Stay present.
The search continues.
Thank you, Dr. Death.
So, controversially, I, Dr. Bones, this year will not be talking about bones. I'll be talking about not bones. So I'm going to take you to a story and I'm going to endeavour to drop down further on the badass scale. Because it's a tale as old as time. Mystery bug is formed. Hungry zombies come, squishy humans run, society now forms. We're talking about the zombie apocalypse. Go to the next slide. Teeth. We're talking about teeth. Those are not bones. They are not bones. They don't anyone claim that they're bones. So when we're looking at bites, so we know that we have the zombies come, they're after your brains. You have hard bites, you have harder decisions to make when one of your colleagues is bitten. Sometimes not so hard. In types of damage, so we have piercing, we have tearing, crushing damage as well from the jaw, also crushing damage if you're hit by a mob and just crushed by the crowd. In terms of microbial damage, the mouth is a dirty, dirty place. Human mouths are dirtier than some animal mouths. You add to that, then you're dealing with dead tissue. And there are certain cadaveric organisms that can lead to really fulminant infections. And if anyone wants me to tell them the story of Semmelweis hand washing and Austrian obstetrics, I can go into that later, but I don't have time right now. And then, of course, the whatever mystery pathogen there is. But hang on a second. Next slide. We're dealing with tissue that's decaying. So as a tissue decays, it's going to be less functional. We have the integrity of your bite function. You know, some zombies don't necessarily have a jaw that's particularly intact. However, you have to counter this against zombies don't feel pain, and when you don't feel pain, you can generate more force than what a normal human would be able to. Like if we bit onto something hard, most of us in the room, we would go out and stop. Then there's human factors, you know, the skin. You know, as we get older, our skin thins. Some people have thicker skin, some people have thinner skin just by nature of their genetics. Bone, you know, I love bones. You can bite through bones. I'll get into that later. And then what sort of protective gear you're wearing. So let's look at what sort of bite strengths we have. Humans, we have teeny tiny bite strengths. Orcas, I thought it was going to be saltwater crocs, to be honest, or hippos, which terrify me. But actually, I should be more terrified of orcas, and so I don't go near the water anymore. But yeah, pounds per square inch, humans are fairly meagre into what sort of bite strength we can offer. It's around 160 psi, 150 to 200 on average, which converts to 400 to 600 newtons. So we go to the next slide. And what is the sort of bite force you can generate? Well, normal bite force, you're getting to 70 to 150 newtons. In terms of maximum bite strength, and this was a study done by Janssen and Van Buren and his colleagues, they took normal individuals and they measured their maximum bite strength, but more towards the molars, because that's where most of the proportion of your bite strength comes from. And really, you know, we're only getting sort of 400 to 700 newtons there. There is the Guinness World Record for insane amount, 4,337. That is still not that high compared to an orca, but you would be able to have a biting competition with a saltwater crocodile. So, in terms of what you need to be able to bite through skin, it's not that much, and we can do it. We can bite through each other's skin. I wouldn't recommend it. You can bite through a finger bone. Now, it says there 1,485 newtons to bite through a finger bone. We do see people who have nail biting problems that then go beyond the nail and they start nibbling away their digits. And it takes a bit of concerted effort, but they can munch fairly far down towards their knuckle. It's called Munchausen's. What an appropriate name. Let's go to the next slide. So then we have to also consider what it takes to break a tooth. Now, is it going to be the root of the tooth that breaks, or is it going to be the enamel? Well, it turns out that it's the enamel and it tends to split longitudinally. And it's about the magnitude of force, and this is a study done by Barrera Lopez and his colleagues. It's about what sort of force you put on and then what the distribution of it. So there you can see in the top graph, that is if you have a point load and your force magnitude is around 1,000 newtons. If you distribute the force over a wider distance, you need more force to crack the tooth. Of course, then you crack a tooth, split a tooth, it becomes sharper, so then the zombies might be able to bite you better. So all these things kind of start coming into effect. I went down a deep, dark hole. So, next slide. Then we've got to think about what sort of materials we can wear to protect ourselves. Now, most motorcycle leather that you wear for motorbike riding, for example, is about 1.1 to 1.5 mil thick. You can also get fibre types of jackets like neoprene, Kevlar, polyester, nylon cordura. And the rating there that they have is the denier rating, but that's more about fibre thickness. It doesn't necessarily reflect overall protection. It just says that if you have thicker fibres, they're probably going to be more durable. In terms of how we, helmets, gloves, boots, they are obviously much stronger than the rest of the outfit. Now, there's different ways that we can assess protection standards. Europeans, they have their own system looking at garment protection and individual impact protection. Here in Australia, we have the motor cap system, and they create an injury protection score, which is essentially a star system from 1 to 5. And they look at three elements: what its abrasion resistance is, what its impact resistance is, and what its burst resistance is. So for abrasion, they literally just take some material, they put a thin detection wire underneath, wrap it around a bit of metal, and then put it on an asphalt analogue, and then see how long it takes to wear away a hole. You wear a hole in the material, wire breaks, you go, okay, this is how long this material could slide across asphalt before we started getting the man with the excellent view of his forearm. I'd need a plastic surgeon to help me with closure. Impact protection, so you have all the padding. What they do is they take those protective inserts that are usually around your knees, hips, elbows, shoulders, and they look at the size, the position, how they're fastened. Then they take them onto an anvil with a sensor, and they take a 5 kilo weight and go boom, from 1 metre up and see what sort of impact protection. And then the weak point of many jackets are your seams. So what they do is they take anything with a seam, they put it on an item that stretches it, and then measure the amount of pressure it takes to stretch the fabric until it bursts. Now all this, I got to impasse. There's nothing that looks at piercing damage. So the best that I could find is that most leather handcraft machines are quoted at values of up to 160 kilograms, which is about 352 psi. I have no way to look at whether these jackets, which are good for abrasion, whether they are going to be easily penetrated by a bite. So I need more data, and if anyone has a biomechanics lab out there, I have ideas of how we can form the study. Reach out to them. But essentially, what it comes down to, if we are in the zombie apocalypse, first rule one is cardio. You want to run away. You're more likely to be crushed to death by mobs than you are to be bitten. Rule number two, it's about layers of protection. So I'd be going to the nearest motorcycle store, getting myself I'll probably go for like a fibre jacket rather than leather because it's a bit more breathable if I'm running. And layers. I'd probably then also go to a sports store and get some shin protectors and put them on my forearms and my shins because those are vulnerable areas where I could be bit. But yeah, rule one is cardio. Run around, run away.
We're going to speed run your
speed run
little section.
Okay, fine. Well, on the topic of teeth, we all know about wisdom teeth. Everyone talks about it, but they're boring. Who needs wisdom? I don't. It's annoying, and we're just going to want it removed anyway, albeit painfully. But what about the other sticks? So, incisors. This here is Penny Kianzad. She won the fight in 2002, but knocked out her 2 front teeth. And you could say that maybe her charisma has gone down a little bit. The caveat to that is that halflings and children, they have a paradoxical effect where they lose their 2 front teeth and they become more cute and more charismatic, so it must be halfling-like. Intelligence, we can all agree that Ed Helms in The Hangover made a very poor decision. Fun fact, he actually doesn't have a tooth there, he wore a prosthetic to pull it out, but he has a natural gap there. In terms of canines, well, dexterity. You think of characters that have big canines, they're usually fast and you want to stay away from them. So they're designed to rip and tear, enter the doom music. They're also there to support your facial muscles by drawing them to aesthetics. Premolars, yeah, take that little boo-boo. I want to tear them, I want to shred them, I want to crush and grind them. So they serve a transitionary role between your canines and your molars, and so strength is for them. And then finally, good old workhorse, constitution. They're your molars. So they are for chewing and jaw stability.
Amazing. Unfortunately, no time for Fallout Slide.
No, just see we're going to do it, you promised.
Oh, do it? Yeah.
If we had time.
If only we had time. Such a pity, we don't have time.
Cool. Question answer time, it's the fun time. It's the time everybody likes. I got a question. How much do orthopedic surgeons and dentists fight? Out of curiosity.
We don't, because as orthopaedic surgeons we know about tooth knuckle injuries. Now if you ever present, so tooth knuckle injury or a fight bite is where you punch someone else in the mouth and then you get wounded as well, and you end up with a horrible infection in your hand and you turn up to a hospital and we all judge you. We all judge you.
All right.
When we're in the trauma bay, we usually put them side by side as well.
Discuss. Work out your issues.
Okay. So my question is regarding our study of badassery and talking. I think we can all agree that retrospective cohort studies are for schmucks.
So it isn't the best study style. However, I was limited in the data that I had.
So my question is, do you plan on doing a prospective cohort study? And if so, how would you control for the Hawthorne effect that you just created by telling them all about?
The mission to know.
The ethics committee says no.
This is a fantastic fantastic idea for a more statistically rigorous measure of badassery, and perhaps Dr. Evil would like the chance to redeem himself. So possibly. No, he's good.
That's the medical way of saying, we'll do a study, don't you worry. I'll just stack it so Dr. Evil wins, and everyone's happy.
And he's still got 3 points to fall, so you're on par with Navi.
Thank you.
It's an early design.
Next one up the back.
I'm not sure if you're Borderlands players, but the new game has introduced a lot of talking and very horny guns and shields. Now, these guns and shields are telling you to constantly fill them up and do more and shoot your daddy and all this sort of stuff. I'm wondering how this would affect someone who's actually supposed to be in this environment shooting, and they're constantly being fed all this horniness and physically how
unnecessary distraction, isn't it, really?
So your choices are violence or being perpetually horny.
It's the 4X.
It's a terrible choice.
I do not want to be edged by my gun.
And what happens when you shoot at... No, we're not talking about terminology. Let's just move on.
Dopamine reward pathways and operant conditioning, I think is what that is.
Stage left.
Yes, hello. Sorry, so one of you spent a lot of time at university. You started with a Bachelor of Music and then moved on to a Bachelor of Medicine, Bachelor of Surgery. A lot of people think of both of those as two separate lifetime endeavours, and if you start with one, you can't possibly end with the other. I wanted to know what your journey was through that and what advice you would have for people looking to do a mid-career transition to medicine.
I think if you're, I'll blanket, if you're looking for career advice going into medicine, generic advice for a crowd like this we won't do. Come and find us afterwards.
But the pathway from music to medicine was, back in the day, a long time ago, you auditioned to get into, you had to audition instead of just an OP to get into the music department, and they put out offers before you got your OP score. That's how old I am, yes. And I remember saying to Mum, oh God, I've got to accept or turn this down. I kind of want to do medicine, but I don't know what my OP is going to be. And she said, oh, just do the music, give it a try, you got in. And I did it was great. And it was, my specialty was classical viola playing. And then I did a brief look around at how many spots there are and what the, professional opportunities for a classical viola player in Australia are. And I went, right, time to do medicine.
How much was it back at that point?
Yes. Follow your passion and be sensible about and realistic about whether you'll be able to survive off the income.
One of the things I will add to that is that, doing a degree that is outside of like boring science medicine, it's actually important because you're out there dealing with people and you have to relate to people. If you can't relate, if you can't create that doctor-patient relationship, you can't help someone. So actually, I found that some of the most interesting colleagues that I work with have had other career paths, and it gives them a broader view. And doing a creative type pathway before getting into the science of medicine is actually really good. You come there with then more open ideas and more ability to laterally think rather than being forced down this on the rails direct line of thought.
Soft skills. Over here, stage race.
Thank you. First and foremost, any study of silent protagonists that does not include Gordon Freeman is fundamentally flawed.
Not that I'm aware of, unfortunately.
And my actual one, calling back to the psychological effects of exposure to low pressures, sounds very familiar to hypoxia, like getting the bends. Exposed to high pressure, which I've experienced personally, and it's a good time.
There's hypoxia, and then there's the bends, which is actually the expansion of gas in spaces where gas doesn't belong. But there's also a more interesting that happens to divers or people who work under pressure, and that is nitrogen narcosis, where you get all kinds of happy and loopy or belligerent or gun horny because you've got too much nitrogen floating around in your system.
Like names.
Yeah. And sometimes nitrogen narcosis happens when you're in a pressure chamber, which is an enclosed space with a very locked door and thick walls, and you're in there with someone who's like, hey. It's not a good time. My sympathy, sir. I don't want to know what happened.
Thank you.
So, what would be the effects of the G-forces when swinging around in Spider-Man 2?
Great question.
I mean, you have more experience with G-forces and centrifugal training.
Yeah. So
and I can function without much blood to my brain, so...
Between the two of you, we might get an answer.
Never.
One of us. So G-force is really interesting. There's positive Gs and negative Gs, and you basically have blood forced down and out of your brain, or you have blood forced from your body and into your brain. So there's black out, red out. Now I would profit that Spider-Man and his enhanced physiology can cope with multiple G-forces, and unless he's doing the speed of sound and then goes through a deep turn or goes for a positive G-turn and goes nose down, he's not going to be able to overcome his physiology to be able to pump enough blood around the rest of him. So Spider-Man will be fine. The human body itself cannot sustain Gs, anything, so the astronauts do about 20 Gs for short periods of time. Normal fighter pilots can sustain anything up to 9 or 10 Gs in special suits that keeps blood in the important areas.
So if he's carrying Mary Jane?
Yeah, Mary Jane may do a little bit of a funky chicken at the end of it.
Back over to
a bit of a half on the hypoxia one. You're talking about the decompression in that video. If I remember correctly, the actual full context was he was looking through the deck and they were making him call out each card. He pulled 3 cards before they stopped him, the 4 of clubs.
Yep.
So then he pulled, I think it was like a 2 of diamonds, and then it was another club, and he was still calling 4 of clubs,
Yep.
and he was at cast.
Executive function had ceased.
Yeah, so, and that's why, so pilots and certain other professions are taught what are known as boldface items, which take very little cognitive forethought to achieve. And one of the scarier things that I came across was a pilot that I treated, very experienced pilot, thousands of hours in the cockpit, and there was an issue with the aircraft in which he was using. He was mask on, and it was noted that he had 6 or 7 go-arounds trying to land correctly before he safely put the fighter jet down and then pulled in. And when you sort of land successfully, the instructions are you come off mask, you pop canopy, you know, you get the wind in your hair and you look cool, and then you pull into the garage and park your plane. And his ground crew came up and went, "What's going on, sir? You know, you nearly sputtered in a couple of times. You had to do aborted landings." He did not remember landing the aircraft. All right. So he had taken, you know, after doing X number of thousands of hours, he'd taken something that takes a significant amount of cognitive forethought and put it into his lower brain, which requires less oxygen, less nutrients, and was able to do it almost automatically. So he, after a hypoxia of 20 or 30 minutes, became an orthopedic surgeon.
Very nice. Thank you.
Okay. With your study on breast size and whether or not it was realistic or not, did you happen to look at, particularly with the fighting characters, the muscular damage of not wearing supportive tops or supportive garments?
There's a whole talk here. Like, I mean, the physics, the armor, like, oh my god. So
Grabby.
No, she's spiraling now.
I tried very carefully to prepare things that were not going to be un-PC to say, but basically, yeah, if you look at just the various movements and things, that like your center of balance, your extra muscular strain, even muscular strain just to keep your posture, let alone fight, agreed. Somehow a female chest plate, you transpose that onto, male chest plate, same piece of armor, transplant that onto a female and it becomes like a bikini. Honestly, whether or not as a fighter I would choose to protect myself from breast cancer by augmenting my testicles and thereby inhibiting every possible movement or fatiguing all my muscles.
And back pain.
And back pain,
up with back pain.
It's a personal choice, and I don't judge. So but yeah, I do take your point. It's suboptimal.
Thank you,
doctors. I had a question from a learned professor.
Oh. Professor
How much
Luigi.
blood can a human lose before they die?
That's us, the surgeon.
That's so much better than all the others.
How much blood can we lose before we die?
So there's the analogy in trauma surgery where you've got a hole in the bucket and you fill up the bucket again. And so it depends on the size of the hole and the size of the bucket and
How fast you can fill it.
and how fast you can fill it. So you can lose all of it and then all of it again and then again and again.
But you need to be topped up quickly.
And you need to be topped up quickly.
But
So-
without having it topped up.
So without having it topped up, you can lose, so if you go into stage 4 shock, which is about 2 to 2.5 litres of blood in the standard 70 kilogram human, then you can lose that and still be recovered. Anything beyond that and your physiology starts really going off. And
So half.
yeah,
Half.
50.
What about in a kid?
Please do not exsanguinate your child. Outside only,
Please try to keep the
It's
blood
not
on the
relevant
inside.
if you haven't lost it, if you know where it is.
I have internal bleeding. That's what the blood's meant to be.
Excellent question, thank you.
What pressure would it take to break an orca's teeth, and how would you go about it?
I don't think anyone has been brave enough to test that.
Something stronger than a yacht.
Like something very, very strong. You'd need some sort of hydraulic press.
What about, okay, so Dr. Evil had the slide with the shark with the freaking laser on its freaking forehead.
Yeah.
Zombie orcas. How would you defend yourself against a zombie
Oh, stay up high.
Why did you want that into existence?
Just remember, orcas
Hey,
can't fly.
at our next D&D campaign, we're on a boat, there's going to be zombie orcas, I can just see.
My question is about mutism, and you mentioned the anxiety-based mutism.
Yes.
And I know with some kids that I know and work with, and my wife is a primary school teacher, you have some kids where their defence mechanism to the amygdala hijack is essentially mutism. Do we see any cases where people don't grow out of that and they have anxiety-based mutism as an adult?
You do. I think it's dependent on a few things. I think there's a big sort of overlap between there's social anxiety sort of alone. There's also neurodevelopmental conditions like autism, and sometimes you can kind of have both. In my sort of personal professional experience, I've usually seen that in cases of autism. I'm sure there's other ways that can happen as well, but that's what I've seen. Yeah.
Excuse me just for one moment. I'm going to very cheekily ask our local enforcer, are you kicking us, or can we be a little cheeky and run over? I'm just listening. Back over stage right.
And a shout out to the enforcers for all the hard work they do.
Sorry.
Yes, I just had a question about the scoring coolness factor. And because we talked about, you have the classic Cloud Final Fantasy VII, and he didn't talk at all. But then the remake, he had a personality. So did his coolness factor actually go down over time, or did you remember the classic Stoic, so he was still cool?
I mean, I always sort of picture him in the classic sense, I think it's a reimagining that Cloud is still Cloud the original. I think he was someone that I left off the list because of the controversy of the remake situation, but I think he remains a badass character, strongly rated.
Awesome. Back over the stage right.
Everyone has so many amazing qualifications already. Are there any specializations that you guys personally have always wanted to get into that you haven't, or one that is like, this is my dream specialization, I'd love to just get a chance to learn more about?
All right, I'm going to put each of you on the spot and be like, you get to pick one, and that's your answer.
You mean like if we weren't doing what we were doing?
If
which
we weren't
most
doing
of
what
us
you were doing, yeah.
what would be?
Does it have to be in medicine?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, off the top of my head, personally, I love computer science and fiddling around on that sort of stuff. So I would love to learn more about that personally, or cybersecurity. Yeah.
We'll talk.
I once looked into doing a Bachelor's of Microbiology, specialising in brewing studies. The Bachelor of Being, if you will.
One side.
Before discovering the beautiful world of bones and orthopedics and spine, I thought I wanted to be a cardiologist. And I decided to get rid of the heart and just focus on bones because they're more pure. But if bones don't lie to you.
Who hurt you?
But I mean, honestly, if I had something that I was talented enough to do and turn into a career, if I could make snowboarding a career, that would be so cool. I just like the talent.
Bachelor reporting.
Bachelor reporting.
Leads to bone work.
Yeah, why not?
Lord give us and Lord take it.
The Lord take the bone gifts, yeah. Keeps it way.
I think maybe travel medicine.
Travel
Like,
medicine. Oh, yeah.
because there's some interesting. Yeah.
That's cool.
Weird and wonderful.
I'm the weird one out, mostly then, because I went far down the rabbit hole of emergency medicine and then decided that I didn't want to do that anymore. So I changed my dream and I became an addiction medicine physician. For those that don't know, there are 3 of us in Victoria.
And très demand.
Yes. So if anybody has an interest in medicine and addiction medicine, come talk to me later because I have way more work than I can deal with.
Great question. Thank you. Go to this side.
Hey, so with the rise of games that are gambling themed, like Balatro and Clover Pit, can you comment on whether it's bad because maybe it leads people into gambling, or good because it still triggers those gambling centers without?
I mean, I'm kicking this straight. I'm kicking this straight.
Please see my health and gaming presentation from a couple of years ago where we did touch on that subject.
If you Google prescribed Respawn, there's a health and gaming we did 3 years ago. He actually.
I did talk about that. Gambling in detail. Yeah, very much did talk about gambling. Gambling is an addiction. The way that all of the gambling stuff is set up, real life or otherwise, is designed to draw you in. It is designed to give you a pre-dopamine hit, to encourage you to do things and to encourage you to participate in the activity, and then reward you just enough and just often enough to keep you doing it. And so games like that, and I've heard about this Balardo game, and I'm like, okay, well, it's not bad because you don't have to keep paying money for it, which is okay, but it is purely designed to keep you playing.
Yeah.
So it is there and it's built like casinos are. The only redeeming feature is that you don't have to pay more money, as opposed to loot boxes and all these other things that you do continue dumping teeny little bits of money in.
Anyone that plays Warhammer Tacticus knows the pain of having requisition drops that just completely destroy you. It's sad.
Thank you.
I think I saw one of you yesterday, and
Where's my kidney? this attendee owes us a kidney.
Come see us afterwards.
I was going to say, what are you going to do with my kidney? I have an idea.
I will hear your idea, sir.
Either pickle it, or put some googly eyes on it and take it for a walk.
How did you get access to our Google Form?
I think that's better.
So I've been in departments where we got told off because someone found a pack of googly eyes and started.
No, you have been this
It's pathology. Not appropriate. And the first one, piglet. So how did they get, somewhat pathological related, adjacent, when Lord Admiral Nelson won Trafalgar, right, but was mortally wounded, and arguably selfishly because the other sailors didn't get this, but he wanted to go home and be buried properly because for his religious beliefs, if you were buried at sea, you weren't going to ascend because his father was a priest, so he was very particular about it. So he says to them, get me home at all costs, must be buried properly, none of this overside bollocks that the other sailors are getting. How'd they pickle him? How'd they pickle him to get him home? Yes!
Run.
And what did they do when they got there and took him out?
No!
It's alcohol sterilizes things.
How about rum kidney?
From a chemistry perspective, alcohol is a solution. And I was much thought, I vote that, and the panelists can disagree, I vote that we take your kidney, we put googly eyes on it, we pickle it in a jar, put wheels on it, and then we take it for a walk.
And I actually think we've got a member of the team who could potentially give it legs or wheels.
Another question. Hey there. So I saw at an engineering conference recently a bunch of scientists in the state who are fairly sure that they'll be able to start with 3D printing human hearts within the next decade. What organ or body part would you guys like most to be able to 3D print on command? Teeth, surely.
Evil needs a new liver. So this technology is actually fascinating from an elective point of view, and we have the capacity to remove disease like diabetes and kidney failure in the next lifetime using this technology. It's very exciting. The problem that we currently have is that it cannot be deployed rapidly. It takes a lot of lead time. And it still has the current problem of tissue rejection. So I think any organ that we can create that will stamp out disease is going to be a positive. And if you've got the opportunity to read up on artificial kidneys and artificial hearts and pancreases, it's definitely worth a read and educate yourself.
The spinal cord injuries, if there was a way that you could regenerate a spinal cord in any way, even a small amount, it makes such a huge impact on people's level of function. And that's an area that I get to see, unfortunately, a lot of. We're always looking for the holy grail of how to regenerate spinal cords.
Hello. My question is about emergency medicine, but I'm okay with an answer from anyone because it's to do with CPR. Standard CPR, 30 compressions, 2 breaths, third of the body. If it's Doctor Who though, who has 2 hearts, do I increase the rate of my compressions, the number of my compressions, or the depth of my compressions?
None of the above. You just need to really balance your center of gravity and have both base of palms. Like, first of all, can you locate each heart? And second of all, like simultaneous compressions to both.
Wouldn't it be like playing the bongos? It'd be like.
I just jumped repeatedly on his chest. Greatest service.
Don't you just wait for him to regenerate?
Unless it's David Tennant, I don't want him to ever go.
All right, we are going to unfortunately do our last question here in the middle.
Hi guys. I was just wondering, in a lot of different get blown up, radiation and that, how would that affect the bone?
Oh, radiation. So there is an amount of, it's actually in the slides that I haven't been able to cover for years. There's radiation damage that you can take to tissue before things stop healing. And so most, say metastatic disease, if we are irradiating an area, I would say I mean the radiation oncologists, usually they're fairly low in terms of how many grey they irradiate. That's how we measure it. It's not rads, it's grey. If you irradiate someone to 20 grey, say, which is kind of most simple meds, you'll have a little bit of issues with maybe some wound healing, but that'll go away, the tissue will recover. If you irradiate above 80 grey total, which is huge, then you don't want to cut them because they will not heal. Because it just kills everything in that part. You can actually see on an MRI scan the marrow changes in the bone. So someone will throw up to me an MRI scan, I'll be like, oh, that area's been irradiated. They're like, how do you know? I'm like, look at the marrow. There's no longer any healthy differentiation, it's just dead bone.
Sadly, on that note, it will draw us to a close on this fine day of PAX. I have one special announcement on behalf of the Cookie Brigade. They actually have a full set of prescribed respawn pins, all 6 from all 6 that we've ever done, in a box set that they are auctioning off today. So if you're keen to get some past ones or be involved in that, there'll be QR codes outside the doors, as well as up at the Cookie Brigade stall, as well as keep an eye out for any of the guys in blue selling Cookie Brigade stuff. They have all the details as well. He's right there! Yeah. panelists, crew, guys.